Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to jump into a topic that, let's face it, touches every single one of us, aging. And we're not just going to talk about living longer, we're going to talk about how to live well all the way through. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to break down what aging actually is. Then we'll get into the good stuff, a real toolkit for how to age well. From there, we'll tackle the real-world challenges, talk about why planning ahead is so crucial, and finally, get into the very human side of it all, living, dying, and grieving. Okay, let's kick things off. What even is aging? I mean, it's way more than just another birthday, right? It's this huge, universal process that, well, it changes everything. Our bodies, our minds, even how we fit into the world. So when you boil it all down, aging is kind of like a story with a bunch of different parts. Yeah, there's the biological side, where our body's amazing repair crew starts to slow down a bit. But it's also about the mental shifts, how our thinking changes, and how our connections to other people and our spot in the world evolves. But why? Why do we age in the first place? Well, science has a couple of big theories on this. One idea is that it's all programmed into us, like our genes have this internal clock that's been ticking since birth. The other idea is all about damage. Basically, life happens. The environment, toxins, just living. It all causes wear and tear that eventually our bodies just can't quite keep up with. The truth? It's probably a little bit of both. Okay, so understanding the why is interesting for sure, but the real question is, what can we do about it? And that's exactly what this next part is about, a practical toolkit. Look, the goal here isn't to find some fountain of youth. It's about adding more life to our years. And the first thing on the list? It might sound like a broken record, but the science is just crystal clear on this. The single biggest, most impactful thing you can do for a longer, healthier life is to not smoke. Period. And I mean, just look at the numbers. They're staggering. The average person who smokes a pack a day is looking at losing around 13 and a half years of life. 13 and a half years. That's, wow. It's a huge reminder of just how much those daily habits really, really add up. But it's not all physical, right? We've got to exercise our brains too. Think of it like a muscle. It needs a workout. Doing stuff like reading, picking up a new language, or even learning an instrument, these aren't just fun hobbies. They're actually building up what scientists call cognitive reserve. It's like creating a mental backup, a buffer that could help fend off symptoms of dementia down the road. And really, it all works together, It's not about doing just one thing. Aging well is the whole package. It's about getting moving. About 150 minutes a week is the goal. It's about eating good food that fuels you. And this one is huge. It's about keeping up with your friends and family. Seriously, so many studies point to strong social ties as one of the biggest keys to a long, happy life. All right, but let's get real for a minute. Aging well also means being ready for the challenges that might pop up. And the idea here isn't to be scared of these things, but to know what they are so we can manage them. Now, this number, 80%, it might look a little scary at first glance, but here's how to think about it. For most of us, dealing with some kind of chronic condition is just going to be a normal part of getting older. It's actually the rule, not the exception. So what are we talking about here? Well, one of the most common physical hurdles is osteoarthritis. You can kind of think of it as the result of a life well lived, a life of movement. The cartilage in our joints just gets worn down over time, and that can lead to pain and swelling, especially in places like our knees and hips. And then there's the cognitive side of things, where dementia can be a major challenge. Now, it's really important to get this straight. Dementia isn't one single disease. It's more of a general umbrella term for when someone's cognitive function declines so much that it gets in the way of their daily life. And the most common cause under that umbrella? That's Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so let's shift gears a little. We've talked about managing our health. Now let's talk about managing our wishes. This part is all about the practical, concrete steps you can take. And honestly, it's one of the greatest gifts you can give to yourself and to the people you love. And it all boils down to this one really big question. What if? What if you were in a situation where you couldn't speak for yourself? How would your doctors, your family, how would anyone know what you wanted for your medical care? How do you stay in the driver's seat? Well, the answer is something called an advance directive. And there are two main kinds you need to know about. First, there's the living will. Think of this as the what. It's the document where you spell out what kind of medical treatments you do or don't want. Then there's the healthcare proxy. This is the who. This is where you name a specific person you trust to make those decisions for you. So putting your plan together really comes down to a few key things. You've got your will, which handles your property and assets. But just as important are those advanced directives for your health. And while you're at it, it's a good time to think about things like organ donation and to get familiar with your care options, like palliative care, which is all about comfort, and hospice, which provides that comfort right at the end of life. Okay, for our last section, let's talk about the experience itself. How do we actually cope with dying, whether it's our own journey or walking it with someone we love? This is all about the emotional side, the psychological parts of that final journey. Now, you've probably heard about the 5 stages of grief, right? Well, a more modern way to think about coping with a terminal illness is to look at it through these 4 dimensions. It's not some neat step-by-step process. It's messy. It's a holistic thing that involves managing our physical needs, our psychological well-being, staying connected to people, and finding some kind of spiritual meaning in it all. And then, after a loss, comes grief. And if there's one thing to take away about grief, it's this. There is no instruction manual. There's no right way to do it, no schedule to keep. It's a deeply, deeply personal process, and having people around you for support, it's not just helpful, it's absolutely critical. And this really brings us to the core of it all, doesn't it? It's this beautiful paradox. By being brave enough to look at death, to think about it and plan for it, we actually learn how to appreciate life so much more. It shows us that getting ready for the end isn't about being morbid. It's about living more fully right now. Because really, how can we say we've lived well if we haven't thought about how we want to approach the end?